Hello and welcome to Unit 3, Geography. Woo! I hope you're excited. I've been telling you how excited I am to get to this unit. Geography is a very important topic. It's going to serve as the basis for a lot of information that we will learn throughout the year about ancient civilizations. So during this lesson, we are going to answer two important questions to get to understand geography. First of all, what is geography? And secondly, how is it studied? Now before we get started, I want to make sure you're ready. So, do you have your note page available and a pencil? You need to be recording all relevant information you hear during this video. Now that you know how to take notes, I want to see you put that skill to use. Okay, so now that you're ready, let's get started. What is geography? Geography is the study of everything in or on the earth. This includes the physical features of the earth as well as its atmosphere. For example, mountains, lakes, rivers, or human activity. Human activity as it affects the earth as well as how it is affected by the earth's features. What do we mean by that? Human activity as it affects the earth would include how we use our resources. What do our populations do to the land around us? And, for example, industries. How does that affect our environment? Now, how are we affected by the earth's features? Well, based on our landscape, we figure out where we can or cannot live. So for example, if there are mountains like we talked about with our ancient civilizations, how did that affect where people could settle? Geographers are the ones who study everything in or on the earth, as we know from our first unit. They look at Earth's natural environment and human society, and they focus on the details and the relationships between humans and their natural environment. They describe a place by finding its physical and human characteristics. So physical and human characteristics are very important to geographers. Geographers ask two basic questions. Where is it located? And why is it there? Now think about those questions in the context of some of the discussions we had during Unit 1. Do those questions sound familiar? Were they relevant to ancient civilizations and the early hominids? Interesting. So, there are 5 themes of geography. 5, 5, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count them up. Now, we're going to go through each theme in this lesson. But to help us remember the 5 themes, I will give bonus points to any student who can come up with a good mnemonic device to remember these themes. What's a mnemonic device? Well, you can certainly look it up, but as a quick example, a mnemonic device helps you remember by making a word or expression out of the first letters of phrases. For example, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally helps you remember order of operations. So again, if any student can think of it, bonus points. All right, now, 5 themes of geography. Location, place, human-environment interaction, or HEI, we'll call it because it's such a long term, movement, and region. So, if you're thinking about how you should organize your notes, big hint. Right here on the screen are 5 very good main ideas. Let's talk about our first theme, location. Location is the first step in studying a place. You need to know where it is located. There are 2 ways to describe that, absolute location and relative location. So first, let's talk about absolute location. Absolute location is the exact place somewhere is on Earth. For example, your street address, which would be your house number and your street, or your global address. Your global address is your address based on the latitude and longitude of your location. So what is latitude and longitude? Well, they are very important terms that we will be using. So let's take a closer look at them before we move on. Before I flip to the next slide though, I've given an example of a global address, 22 degrees north, 159 degrees east. An extra homework point for someone if they look it up and tell me where that is. Okay, so lines of latitude and longitude. Lines of longitude run north and south, long down the globe. Lines of latitude run east-west across our globe. So this map right here is an atlas of the world. Now, as you notice over here, something very important. Our numbers that mark our degrees. 20 degrees, 40 degrees, 60 degrees, 80 degrees. So in the example of the global address we just had, there was a latitude and a longitude with a number as well as a direction. But as you'll see here, there are no directions listed next to the numbers. So where do we get those? Our compass rose. This is a term now that may be familiar based on the questions that we've had. A compass rose, or sometimes called a wind rose, is a figure that you'll see on maps or nautical charts that tell you the cardinal direction or orientation, north, south, east, west, on a map. So, if we were to use this to map out our atlas, we would have north, east, south, and west. And we would use these cardinal directions in addition to the degrees we see here for latitude and longitude. There would be degrees here as well, to determine our absolute location. Okay. Now, relative location is not an exact spot, but actually describes a place based on what it's near. For example, I live northeast of Bala Cynwyd. Or, something closer, my next door neighbor is to the west of me. Can also describe what it's near. Bala Cynwyd Middle School is near Cynwyd Elementary. Or how far it is from something. I live 11 miles from City Hall in Philadelphia. So that is absolute and relative location. Now let's talk about place, our second theme. Place describes the location to distinguish it from another location. You can do that in two ways. You can describe its physical features, and you can describe its human features. Its physical features would include all the natural characteristics of the earth, like landforms and bodies of water, mountains, oceans, rivers. Human features would include describing the people of the place, like the language they speak, the religion they have, or the modifications they've made to their place, the buildings that they've built, or the cities that they have. Our third theme is human-environment interaction. Again, HEI, to keep it simple. This describes how humans adapt to, modify, depend on the environment. What do we mean by that? Let's take a look at our friends here in the igloo. They live in a very cold climate, and they've learned to adapt to that by building a shelter that withstands the climate. Modify. You'll see here roads. Roads were built by humans so that we could travel across the land more efficiently. And depend on. You'll see here people using the resources of the land. Now, our human interaction can have positive and negative effects. So based on what our actions are, we can have consequences on how we interact with our resources. So you'll see here examples of some negative consequences based on what we use. So again, back to our history repeats itself. If we learn how people interacted with the environment in the past, we can learn the positives and the negatives of those interactions and grow from them. Okay, our fourth theme, movement. Movement refers to the way people, goods, information, and ideas move from one place to another. What do we mean by that? Well, People travel, and when they travel, they bring their ideas, their culture, who they are, to the new location. Yeah, think about goods. Not everything you own was made here in the United States. And information and ideas. Because of all the technology and the advancements that we had, we are now living in what we call a globalized world. So people are becoming more and more connected across the globe, and we're able to share our ideas and our innovations with each other, whereas years past we weren't able to do that. So now we have a new interconnectedness. Interconnectedness, think about that, we connect. And this helps the way that we look at places across the world. We are all linked to one another. That's movement. And our last theme, region. This describes an area based on certain similar unifying characteristics that it has. Those can be physical, natural, human, or cultural. So, given here are some examples. Climate could be tropical or dry. Land could be mountainous or have plains and be flat. Population, dense or sparse. Industry, you can have farming or banking based on what type of resources you have. And government could be a monarchy or a democracy. So those would all be unifying themes that you would have a certain region. As you see here in this map, this is a temperature map of Africa. So here, the climate is very different from here. Now, these can change over time. Land, population, language, culture, those are all things that evolve. And so you can make comparisons about how a region has changed over time when you look at its characteristics. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of our 5 themes, hopefully you've recorded some very good notes. I want you to take a minute and sum it up. Now remember, your summary goes at the bottom. Here's how I've given it a shot. Geography is the study of Earth, everything in it or on it. There are 5 themes that geographers study by looking at physical and human characteristics. The 5 themes include location, absolute or relative, place, physical and human, human interaction, environment interaction, that's humans interacting with the world and its resources, movement, which is the connectedness around the world, and region, climate, land, population. So that was my quick summary. I'm sure you can do a very good job with that, and I look forward to reading that. In addition to summing it up, now that you know the 5 themes of geography, I want you to add at least 2 questions to the left of your notes. 2 questions that you still have or that you want to explore further based on what you learned here. So you did an awesome job viewing this. Thanks for doing your homework, and I'll see you tomorrow.